Hello, welcome to DisruptEDtv, where even the littlest ideas can make a big difference in your school. And we have an interesting conversation teed up for you today on the subject of financial literacy. Our guests are Ken Damato and Robert Church. Ken is the founder and Rob is the executive director of the Domain Financial Literacy Foundation. And I want to start the conversation by talking about a problem as I understand it. And that is, I know an awful lot of adults who lament their lack of training in what to do with money. I mean, they went through 16 years of school, never learned anything about it until after they were graduated from all of it. That's essentially the problem that you folks solve, isn't that true?
It's actually worse than that today than it was 25 to...
You were saying, how could it be worse? But it's actually worse.
So for three reasons. People learn by doing. They learn by rote behaviors. And 25 years ago, moms and dads would go into banks, they would pay bills, they would cash checks, they would go to a drive-through and pull cash out, where today people can swipe their iPhone or use a prepaid card or credit card, and children actually don't even see the transaction. It's invisible. So money is becoming more difficult to engage with, especially as technology makes our lives easier. Years ago, when people would walk into a bank, you'd have a branch manager tug on mom or dad and say, when are we going to open up an account for Junior? And based on Nielsen data and Plunkett research, which tracks the industry, then 25 years ago, it would take 16 occurrences to have you change your mind and do something you hadn't intended on doing when you walked into that bank. Which is why today, less than half the people that use the banking system today with children after 18 years of their child being on this earth have yet to even open up a standard bank account for their child. So you have an epidemic going on here is what you have.
Serious. So they don't know how to write a check, they don't know how to balance a checkbook, they don't even know that needs to be done.
And then years ago, parents would, whether they did it at the kitchen table or at the desk, moms and dads would engage with the children, and it wasn't being done in the school. Today, we're fortunate, despite the financial crisis in 2008, that now there are 37 states that require some form of financial education. 17, New Jersey being one of them, require 60 hours. And of those 17, 5, New Jersey is not one of them, require pre and post test assessments. And that's what Rob and I are here to talk about today, the curriculum that we've developed that we think is going to be helping the schools address that problem.
That's great. Definitely want to talk about the curriculum. You're saying that all this, the change in climate and the mandatory requirement for financial literacy training really stems from the financial crisis of the mid 2005, 2006.
And if you think about it, with the evolution of technology, there's no friction involved in the way that we spend money, the way that young people spend money. So there's no thought about it. And if you're not thinking about it, you're not learning about it. And then the standards start to fall, the opportunities to learn start to fall as well.
Well, that's it. And you become unable to cope with a lot of the problems. I mean, with a little bit of training, people can cope with a lot of these prevent a lot of these problems just by understanding how money works. And that's really up until the mandates went into place, up until your program was developed.
Absolutely.
That was where the curriculum kind of failed everybody.
I would agree.
So walk us through the curriculum. What do you teach kids?
So what we do is we teach the foundation skills necessary for personal finance. Okay, so income and careers, pay benefits and deductions, banks and banking, savings. And what we have is a complete 60-hour curriculum that's standards-based. It's designed to meet or exceed the standards in all of the 37 states that have adopted those standards. We provide pre and post assessment to gauge learning from the beginning of the course, from the onset throughout the end of the course. As an educator, I can't go to school and learn how to teach personal finance. As a matter of fact, the average person would not give themselves a C or better in being able to manage their own personal finances.
Really?
So as an educator, giving myself a C or better, I have a problem teaching this, so there's no place I can go to do that. So what we do is we provide teacher background information. It's a turnkey curriculum, meaning we have PowerPoint slides, teacher background information, student background information, and we take that step by step throughout the course, and from big concepts to small learning throughout the whole course. We also provide student background information, games and gaming, and study guides for students as well.
Now, what bases do you have to touch in order to comply with the mandates for this training?
Well, The standards are so far apart, you can teach basic personal finance to derivatives.
Really?
It's a wide range of things then.
It's a wide range of things, and it doesn't seem to make any sense to teach about mezzanine finances before you've taught about basic skills in personal finance.
Right.
So that's where we start. We start with the building blocks, the foundation
Foundations.
around financial literacy, because that impacts young people's lives.
Okay, well, this is important because it means that most schools that are out there trying to comply with the mandates are doing it by patching something together on their own, for the
Yes.
most part,
63% of all teachers go to the internet to find something to teach.
to teach in order to comply with this mandate.
Absolutely.
So whatever they come up with, they come up with. And what teachers are they? Are they history teachers? Are they civics teachers?
Business
Who usually gets this job?
Could be. What we've found is, and we've assembled
The lucky one.
Right?
Yeah, we've assembled a team of educators from various school districts, 10 or more school districts throughout New Jersey. Some of those educators were computer teachers, some were math teachers, some were business teachers, some were social studies teachers.
Interesting.
But what they all have in common is at some point a school administrator came to them and says, here's this book of standards,
Right.
figure out how you're
Figure
going
out
to
how
teach
we
this.
comply with these standards.
Exactly,
So then what you have, and you're a nonprofit,
yes.
and you've assembled a curriculum. How did you do it? Who did you use? Where did you go to pull this together?
So we raised several $100,000. There's over $625,000 invested in this curriculum, and most of that money was used to pay teachers that have been teaching financial education
Okay.
in some way, shape, or form over the years that collaborated with close to 16 other teachers over a 3.5-year period. All the money that's been raised has been through individuals and some small to mid-sized foundations, some high net worth individuals through networking. But our biggest challenge is to get people in the financial services industry or people with family foundations to actually consider giving to something else other than what they've historically given to in the past.
Right.
Interesting. So you call your program the Fit Kit. It sounds to me like you've gone to teachers who have been complying with the mandates, taken their best practices, plus added content of your own to assemble it into this program. Is that right?
Elements of what Rob started with when he assembled a team of teachers in the second generation of the product. He basically said, tell us what your biggest issues were when you were asked to teach it.
Right.
And we looked at different diverse communities in which some schools were lower income, more socioeconomically challenged, and some more affluent communities. We put the people in the room, and then some basic things like having materials to actually use so you don't have to create the materials to teach.
So basically, what people were doing is just kind of making it up as they go along, right?
And that's
It's
it.
not,
But
it's not uncommon. And then school
Okay.
systems, they manipulate it and they improve it over time.
Right.
But when it comes to money, there's some basic things that need to be taught in a consistent way.
Right.
You don't teach about complex financial instruments before you at least teach children that when you first get a paycheck, the reason why taxes come out are very important. By the way, taxes aren't bad. You know, whether you are to the left or the right, doesn't make a difference.
Doesn't make any difference.
It's
They're a
the
fact of
use of
life.
how you use taxes.
That's it.
Yeah.
Our society is built on having taxation
Yeah,
allowed
yeah,
to
yeah,
fund
that's
That's exactly
the
right.
basic things. It's the extreme use of or the increase of. But children early on shouldn't be taught that taxes are a bad thing, so to
Right.
speak. So
Okay,
here's an example.
We need to take a break. This is such an important conversation.
We don't like taking breaks. We'll keep going.
Well, we'll
Somebody's
keep
gotta
talking
pay
during
the
the
bills.
break, and we'll catch up with all of you again in about a
exactly.
minute or two.
Yes.
Here on DisruptEDtv. We'll be right back.
Stick around.
Thank you.
No, keep going.
Planning a large-scale event or conference? Consider Brookdale Community College and its versatile Collins Arena. The Collins Arena is the premier venue for all kinds of corporate and community events. Live concerts and celebrity happenings, trade shows and expositions, sporting events and tournaments. The Collins Arena has countless layout options to meet your needs. Bring your next event to life at the Collins Arena at Brookdale Community College. Go to brookdalecc.edu/events and start planning your next event now.
Welcome back to DisruptEDtv. My name is Al Cini,
My name is Joe ASUMENDI.
and today we're talking about financial literacy with two experts, Ken Damato and Rob Church. And they've got a program called the Fit Kit, I think, which is a product of their foundation, the Financial Literacy Foundation. And they're making this available to schools as a basis for complying with a federal mandate to offer 60 hours of training in most states. I think you said 37 states.
Do you like the name Fit Kit?
I like the
Financially
name Fit Kit. It works
Fitness,
for me.
a
Yeah, it
fitness
is.
kit
It
for
will.
finance.
You know, and it actually it fits in so many ways because it really is about making healthy adults by teaching them the value of money. This is something that I used to hear from my parents. Thomas Jefferson used to hear it all the time from Thomas Jefferson and James Madison, remember?
Fit kit.
Yeah, we heard it from them all the time. And I think and what are those statistics, Ken, you just mentioned during the break about percentage of people who don't have bank accounts?
So the country, if you look at the country today, based on the last census data, about 25 to 30% of the population is either considered unbanked or underbanked. Of the population that is in the bankable population, parents with children are about 54 million households. Of those 54 million households, 25 years ago, close to 99% of the parents, by the time their son or daughter reached their 18th birthday, they have opened up some type of savings vehicle, double E bonds, custodial account, whatever. That number has been dropping for 25 straight years, and according to the Federal Reserve Bank of Philadelphia, the number is close to 47.5%,
Major drop.
which means 53% of the parents have done absolutely nothing after approximately 7,000 days of their son or daughter walking this earth.
So
It's scary.
Scary from the point of view of you mentioned that the mandates really all stem from the financial collapse of 2005, 2006. A lot of that collapse is attributable to individual Americans making terrible decisions, just bad decisions because they don't understand the factors involved. They don't know how to make a good decision. Nobody ever
There were
taught them
plenty
that.
of mistakes that would go around that you could blame the institutions, but at the end of the day, when you sign a document, when you use a credit card, you know that 8 out of 10 adults don't know that you're actually entering into an agreement that you pay that money back. That's what it is.
They
It
just
has
don't know
nothing-
that.
it
They
has
just
nothing-
imagine somehow.
Signing has nothing to do with identification. It has
Yeah.
everything to do with you in the implied agreement that is in your credit card statement. Right? That's your payment agreement to pay back.
That's the point. Money is not in the cloud.
No.
Money is real.
So there's no wonder that 95% of all students who graduate high school today are considered financially illiterate. And 75% of all college graduates are considered financially illiterate. And then when you add to that what we talked about before, where 63% of teachers go to the internet to find something to teach, almost 70% of teachers say they lack the comfort with teaching about personal finance.
Well, that's it. So your program then, your curriculum fits in what grade levels? What
High school. So right now, in the 17 states that require a form of financial education to be taught, 60 hours is the equivalent of a half a year. And it's anywhere from 9th to 12th grade.
Okay.
And all the materials are in the kit. There's a resource, or Rob, why don't you tell a little bit about what's in it?
Sure. What we included is we include a resource booklet or preface document which talks about the mindset of our curriculum, provides pre and post assessments, also provides grading tools, rubrics and things like that for educators. But it's all mapped to the standards.
Great.
So we're doing a lot of the work for the educators to help them get through the process. All of the unit plans are standards mapped, all of the lesson plans are standards mapped. And what we're looking at from our small market pilots is we're looking at a 40% increase in test scores from pre to post assessment.
Really?
Okay, which is really a good increase, but we're hoping to improve upon that as well. But what we're also looking at is that our curriculum is gender neutral. So young women are performing as well as young men in taking the course, and those coming in who need to learn the most, who score the lowest in the pre-assessment, are doing better.
You're seeing the biggest
post-assessment.
improvements.
So we're seeing the biggest improvements as well.
Well, that's terrific. And how long have you been developing this?
So the curriculum started in development back in 2000, really 2011, 2012 under domain.com, but we've worked on the high school curriculum since 2015.
Okay, great.
We're very fortunate. Like I said, all the money that's been raised has come from private individuals, a dozen or so banks, very small grants from banks. Despite the fact that banks spend more than most organizations giving back to the communities, they give back through their foundations. The top 10 banks last year gave back almost $1.3 billion philanthropically. in the communities in which they serve. So the way we look at this, if the banks actually just supported us,
Right.
and not just check boxes like many of them do, that there's plenty of money to actually support every school in the country through the banking system.
Cool.
But in the meantime, until that happens, we've had very generous donors to help out. Am I allowed to say about two of the biggest purchases people make in their lifetime? One's a car, one's a house.
Right.
And we're very fortunate to have had a person who owns a string of car dealerships in Pennsylvania be able to give a very large grant. Am I allowed to say who it is? His name is Fred Beans, Fred Beans Automotive.
Sure.
Through what's called the EITC program, which Rob can explain a little bit about. He gave a very generous contribution last year, which allowed us to finish the curriculum and get it into one of the school systems in Bucks County. And another donation is coming by the end of this year through that same program. And if it wasn't for the Fred Beans donation, we wouldn't have gotten as far as we have. We need more people like Fred to be able to support our product.
You were saying during the break that an educated consumer is not necessarily a bank's best customer.
Do you remember the commercial for a size?
I do. I remember the clothes.
You remember the clothes?
I remember the clothes.
It's a treat.
But an educated consumer is definitely Fred Bean's best customer.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's it. I mean, you want somebody in healthy financial shape, because otherwise they won't be able to buy a car.
There's a lot. Well, that's one piece. The other piece is most people have a lot of get stressed out with the purchase of a car.
Right.
It's stressful, and he wants to have he sells thousands and thousands of cars.
You
Right.
got to
And
be
he
able
wants,
to relax
and
your
this
way
is a
through
guy
it.
that in his mid-70s comes in, he works 6 days, sometimes 7 days a week. He wants the people that come in to be happy when they buy a car.
Wow,
Right?
that's-
If
and-
people understood their finance better, understood whether it's better to lease or buy,
Right.
to get a used car versus a new car, he just wants people to have what they need.
Right.
And that's kind of an important point where Ken started talking about stress related to making expenditures. I grew up in the early 70s in a farming town in upstate New York. My father lost his job when I was, I think, 5 or 6 years old. So stress with regard to personal finances, that's what my parents argued about.
Right.
Those were the issues that the children heard within the home. So if we're looking at individuals in underserved communities, which we do, and that's one of our target audiences for our curriculum, we're also working on an Express program, which is a community-based program, which is 6 hours for our program. What we're trying to do is change the attitudes related to personal finance that many young men and women carry with them. It's either not knowing or personal finances have created stress within the household.
Right.
So what we've also found through the development of the curriculum at the elementary levels or at the middle school levels in the early days through high school is we're able to change the attitudes related to learning about personal finance. In some of the early pilots, what we found was where we had 19% positive attitudes, we were able to flip that, and at the end of the course, you had students had 91% positive attitudes
That's great.
relating to learning about personal finance.
Where you're eliminating a lot of transaction anxiety and making
Right.
it easier for people to contribute in the economy. That's
Absolutely.
to participate.
Absolutely.
We'll be right back after this break with more Disrupted TV. Two great guests, Ken Damato and Robert Church. Welcome back from the break to Disrupted TV. My name is Al
I'm
Cini,
still Joe Asumendi.
and these are great guests.
Yes,
Still
Got,
Robert and Ken.
Yes,
Ken
still Robert
Damato
Ken,
and
right.
Rob Church. And during the break, we were talking a little bit about how dry financial education can be. And we made the point about how today's generation of students is not necessarily inclined to sit through a PowerPoint presentation. How do you solve that problem in your curriculum?
Well, it's a challenge. And what we do is we look at how do people learn? What's most important to you as a young person who wants to learn, right? So you have to make the content relevant and relatable to where young people are in their lives. The decisions that they're about to make as high school students are some of the most important financial decisions of their lives, right?
Sure.
They're straddling the line between independence and dependence at home with mom and dad. They're looking at their careers, they're looking at colleges, and they're going to make these important financial decisions without understanding what the cost is
What
going
the cost
ahead.
is of those.
So what we do is we make our curriculum relevant and relatable to where they are in life. These are decisions that they're looking at. These are things that they're thinking about as they're moving forward, and that interests them. That's interesting to them.
Okay.
And then what we do is we provide different ways for them to learn, whether it's activity-based learning, whether it's doing some research, whether it's playing a game,
Okay.
whether it's watching a video. What we did is we infused a lot of activity-based learning within our curriculum, a lot of learning that's think, pair, share. So they're thinking about things and they're sharing it with each other, or they're going and research something that's applicable to where they are in life, like careers. What's the income? I want to be a stylist. Okay, what's the income? What's the cost of the college for that? And how long is it going to take me
How
to
long is
pay
it
off
going to
that
take you to
college
pay off that college
education?
debt in that job?
Right.
That's so important.
Plus, many
Exactly.
of these kids are working now. They have
Right.
jobs after school, et cetera, so it's important that they understand where their money's going immediately.
I
Absolutely.
think some of, to keep it interesting, Rob worked with many of the volunteer interns that we have from colleges. We have somewhere between 15 and 20 volunteers throughout the course of a week coming in that are either graduates from college, from college with degrees that are looking for jobs that do not get paid. They're non-paid volunteers,
Right.
or interns from surrounding schools. But some of the interesting things that he did with the teachers was they worked on creating scripts for videos to introduce the topics to make them interesting, and then use some humor, some sarcasm with the students. So as an example, you were just talking about taxes. How do you talk about taxes? Taxes bore the heck out of anyone.
Right.
But if you want to introduce taxation in a way that's interesting, where there's a 2-minute video that opens up where a bunch of kids are in a video, and it's all computer animated and done like a cartoon, but relevant for older kids.
Right.
And this kid says, "Hey, listen, I'm going to buy lunch today. I got my first paycheck." And everyone's like, "Yeah." And then he opens up, he goes, "Or maybe not." He goes,
You have enough left.
Who's this dude FICA, and why doesn't he want me to buy my friend's lunch?
Yeah.
And then that introduces,
Sure.
within a minute, explaining why taxes get taken out of your
Yeah.
pay, and then that introduces the topic. So if you don't think that engages a kid, that's not focused in texting or looking at the opposite sex in the room, they're sitting there trying to
Sure.
get through or get out to go to the cafeteria.
Right.
Now all of a sudden you talk about taxes, you're going to lose them.
Right.
So humor works, not ridiculous amount of humor, but appropriate humor.
No.
You know?
Appropriate humor just to keep people engaged, kids engaged, because we're talking about kids here. And teaching them in high school how to read a pay stub so that they know what all those deductions
How to fill out
actually mean.
how to fill out the
Right.
form when you
Yeah,
have to
what is,
take it
yeah,
out.
what
Why
are
does
these,
it work?
what are these W forms that I need to fill out? And what
That's
do they
all that
mean?
stuff is addressed in the curriculum.
That's critical. So schools out there that are currently cobbling together whatever it is they might have to meet you said 37 states are
37 requires some form, 17 requires 60 hours.
60 hours.
New Jersey is one of them.
How many schools are you in?
Right now, we've been in 4 schools,
Okay,
4 different schools, and we've taught to over 5,500 students.
Okay.
okay.
So it's been an experience where we grow as we develop curriculum. What we learn from our pilots, we go back in and we
Right.
remaster what we're doing. Ken was talking about before our Fit Kids. And our Fit Kids are a group of 5 teenage students who are dealing with real life issues, relevant issues to teenagers. And those kids were actually, during the time that Ken was developing his company Domain, he had brought in young children to work with some of the games and things they were creating. Those young children are now high school students.
Wow.
So we brought them in to consult on the characters, who they should be,
Good.
what their
That must have
role
been
in the
fun.
group
It
should
was.
be.
Yeah, that would be fun.
And then we took it to the next step after we implemented curriculum again and learned a little more. We took it the next step, and last summer, for instance, we filmed 36 videos with teenagers who are talking about why this skill or why this understanding is important and how that applies to their lives. So you have young people addressing young people.
Right.
And again, just so
That's
you
important.
understand, when we say 4 school systems and over 5,000 students, this product has been for the last 3 years. It was 14 into 15 in the summers, but it's been worked on, modified. The teachers took it back in, and in a pilot mode, those aren't the 4 schools, but they took it back and tested the materials within the classroom.
Okay.
Some of the teachers were gathering and said, this stuff is going to hit it over the top. It's going to be a home run, and it flopped. And other
Wow.
things that they thought kids would really not get, but they were going to try,
Right.
Yeah,
took off.
Actually took
right?
off.
So
Wow.
all of that's been done, and all of the money, virtually none of the money that we raise today covers any overhead. Rob operates as a volunteer executive director today. There's a few small stipends that are paid to people, but close to 97.5% of the money that's raised goes right into the product.
That's
Okay, good.
well, and for the thousands of high schools that are out there trying to figure out how to comply with the mandates in those 37 states.
It's very simple. They can go to the website, and Rob will tell you a little about how to find us. But
We at the end of the program, you get to say that right into the camera.
Right.
That's
the good
important.
news, the reality is now we have the curriculum complete.
Right.
We have over 40 school systems that are interested in the product today.
Okay.
Okay, we haven't had it complete. I mean, they want to see it so they can take it to their Board of Education, a complete product. And, when you're working with volunteers, it's like pushing Jello up a hill. It's not easy, but you're thrilled to death to have anyone helping and participate.
Well, anybody who helps is definitely a
and
welcome
the teachers
resource.
are the only ones that get paid in the
So
organization.
your foundation's nice and
Now
built
it's stable.
Yeah,
It's
it's stable.
stable, right,
So,
yeah.
so if I'm a school out there and I'm thinking I want to adopt this curriculum from the beginning to where I'm up and running with it, how long?
We can have them have the curriculum ready within 3 weeks.
Really?
Ready to go.
Okay.
Okay.
And we
So-
can probably make 3 or 4 phone calls and get a business in their town to support it into the school.
Well,
Really?
that's another
Okay,
that's
nothing
another point. I
supported.
mean, that's key. I mean, I would see where a lot of businesses, local businesses, would be very excited
Absolutely.
about partnering and
Absolutely.
delivering this education. That's great.
Money touches everyone at every level.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it?
Right? Kids, when they're 5 years old, when their mom or dad go to the baseball park or whatever, they go to the snack shack, and if you give them $1, I'll tell you, they can matrix that money. They can figure out how many lollipops, how many
Oh yeah,
Swiss
that's
Sticks they
amazing.
get.
I know
Right?
that is incredible.
It's amazing how quickly they start to learn. how
Yeah,
to use
that
money.
is amazing. I mean, that makes it all happen. So we're coming up on that part of our program where you get to tell everybody how to reach you, why they should call you, and there's your camera. Go ahead and do it. Tell us how to reach you.
You can reach us at dmfinancialliteracy.org, or you can call us at 609-751-3300.
And it's a great resource for any school that needs to comply with those mandates, and it's a terrific service to kids who really need to learn this. So,
Amen to that.
so
you.
Ken, what a pleasure having you.
Thank you.
Rob, thank you
Appreciate
very
it.
Rob,
much.
nice to meet
Thank
you.
you.
Thanks for having us.
Pleasure meeting you.
Great guests. And
Okay.
thank you all for joining us today with DisruptEDtv. I hope that a little part of what you learned from Ken and Rob could be helpful in your school. And we'll see you again on a future episode.
Yep, stick around, have a good, till our next episode it is.
Yeah.
We'll see you then.
Okay. What are you going to say?